Today we are going to present you a live demonstration and implementation of how to read content and data from an XML file using SAX and DOM API in Java. Before we get into the implementation, let's first see what is actually an XML. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, which is a kind of a markup language that defines a set of rules for encoding documents in a format that is both human readable and machine readable. This is defined in WWW World Wide Web Consortium XML 1.0 specification of 1998. Now, in short, if you see what is actually an XML, it is a kind of a markup language that helps to pass and provide the data in such a format that is anyone can read. These tags you can define in a markup form, and these tags will user define, and they have the different kind of categorization of data. Now, to understand it better, we'll see the demonstration. What is the use of XML? Now, before we get into the implementation, let's first see in Java, there are two types of APIs available to implement and work with XML to parse the content, what is actually inside the XML. So there are two types of API, DOM, Document Object Module, and SAX, Simple API XML. To parse the content, parsing means you are picking the data from the XML and converting it into. So XML parsing API. Now let's first take a look at DOM. DOM stands for Document Object Model, and it represents an XML document into tree format, which each element representing a tree branches. DOM parser creates in memory tree representation of XML and then parses it. So it requires more memory, and it's advisable to have increased the heap size for DOM parser in order to avoid any kind of exceptions like out of memory error and so on. So it will need your heap memory. To understand it better, what is happening here, in case of DOM type of XML document API, what is going to happen? We have a tree structure. So there is a root element, and it has a parent, and it has a child, and entire this takes a lot of memory to categorize these elements. This is why we need to have a lot of heap memory or heap size in a memory. XML DOM defines a standard way of accessing and manipulating XML documents. So it represents an XML document as a tree structure. Now let's go down and see how we can implement. While working and implementing an XML parsing using DOM API, you can see how it is different. This is our table. This has the data in a database form. Customer ID is your column, first name, last name, nickname, and balance. And this is the data inside it. Now, in case of converting this table into XML, it will be like this. XML, and the bank is the table name, and the client is your row values. You see 111 Alexandria, Joseph, Alex, and this. So this is a row values, and these are the column values. So in case of XML, you represent the data into a different tags form. Now another is 112 like this. This is how you are going to create your DOM XML type of file. Now what we are going to do in DOM API to parse this content, we are going to use the DOM API. Now let's see the demonstration. So this is my Eclipse IDE, and first thing we are going to create a Java project, and this Java project named XML parsing demo, because we are going to use the SAX also in the same project. So what we can do, we just can have our XML parsing demo application. Now inside that we have a source, and we are going to create a package to make it more organized and structured application. So xml.parse.demo is my package name. Now inside this package name, I'm going to create a Java file. Before we create a Java file, we need a sample XML file. So once we create this, read DOM XML parse demo. this is going to be my XML Java file for parsing. Now, next step, we need to have the XML file. So what we can do, inside the source, I'm going to create an XML file. And this XML is going to be named as bank XML, since we are going to have the bank type of demo. So inside the bank, we are going to have different columns and tags and everything. So this is my bank.xml. So inside this XML, let's have a sample data. And since it is going to be a DOM type of API, so their structure is like a root element, and then we have a tree structure. So our root element is your bank. And inside the bank, we have a client. And inside the client, we have the ID. This is just a sample, and we will be changing it to so just for sample, I'm having this first name and the balance, just 3 parameter: ID, first name, and balance. And just wanted to this value repeated and different data, something like Maya, and give some figures like 18, and 3, something like John. So something like bank application, you need to have an XML which contains all the information of your customers, and it's in an XML form, and we need to just load it. So these type of application used when we have something like RSS feed implementation or online bank implementation, where we have to add a bulk of data in once. So we just need to upload the XML or run this application, call it an online application, web application, just integrate it, and you can make it done easily. So something like Suzanne, and some values. So this is my XML, sample XML, which has a root element, bank, and has some parent and some child tags inside it. So this is my tabular form. It's converted into the tree structure XML, and now this XML is going to call it in our Java file. Now let's take a look at the Java implementation, how we can read this content and display it in your console. So let's start with our main function. Inside the main function, we need to have a file. Since it is a file implementation, we need to read the value from the XML. So let's have 5x object of file, and new, and give the path of your XML. So our XML is bank.xml. I'm just going to get the absolute path, so that you can give relative path also. The relative path is just giving it from the working directory. I wanted to make sure it will read and giving an absolute path. So this is my absolute path. Now this is showing error because I'm not included my Java IO package. So now this is imported my file. Next step, we need to have the document builder factory. This will create an instance to load the XML file. So document builder factory object, just give some name of factory. This is an API. All you need to just call it and create an instance. So we are going to create an instance, new instance. So it's showing an error because it's not showing any error. It is automatically imported here. You can see when I just click enter, it gives me imported the package. Now next step, we need to create the document. So for that, we need the document builder object d builder equals to, and we need to call the d factory dot new document builder, and this will create a new document builder object. We need to import the package XML parsing. So this is a DOM type. Since it is a document object model, so we need to throw as exceptions parallelly. You can have it in a try and catch block inside it, so make it more better quality of code. Document object and d builder. We need to have the d builder dot. This will help the parse file, and just call the object. So what will happen here? This will initiate a process to parse the XML content, and you can have as many as exceptions. You can put it in a try and catch block. Get document element. So what is happening? XML is in basically in an element form, in a tag form, and each tag has an element. We need to parse it with the help of the element. So read in the element. First we need to read an element. So suppose we have the element, root element, right? So root element will be mentioned like this, some parsing and escape character to make sure it is reading. Get, okay, we are not showing anything here because we need to include method dot get. So this API has a function named get node name. So when we have the root element, we need to get the value and retrieve it while parsing it. So this will give you the clue that this is reading it and it contains some object. And you can use that particular object to display it in online content or anywhere. So get element, and this we need to read it by tag name since it's a parsing and we are reading it from the tag. Now tag is like we had the root element. Now next is you need to include your parent tag. So for that we need to have the client, as we have the client tag. This we need to import the package. Now node list is done. Next we need to have the loop that will help you to read until the data is not completed. Means this will help you to read the entire XML content. So get the length and get the value of the length until the end of the content of your XML. It will read it. And temp plus plus. So in case if you want to read only one data, so for that what you can do is just an index your temp, right? So this will help you to get the value of only, so this is an DOM API method. Now we need to print the values because we have stored the value of an element. So now we can display the element value of XML. N node get node name and display it. Simple. Now once this is done, now next we need to compare, since we need to make sure it is having node type, which need to have compare it with node element. So once this is done, element equals dot node and termination. Now what is element package here? Now once this is done, now this will print entire content in a customer ID value, whatever we have defined it in your XML. So element and this need to give the, we have the cust ID in an XML. If you remember, we have the cust ID. So this is what we need to add it in your first attribute. Now this is the same way we need to retrieve the next value, your name, customer name. So what is the attribute name here? We have first name, right? So just copy paste here, first name, and it has to be tag by name element. Instead of attribute, we can have the tag name. Get elements by tag name, and tag name dot, and what we need to do is item 0 dot get text. So this will help you to get the values of the different elements. And next we have balance. If you see, we did the ID and first name and balance. We already made the client over here. If you see, this is client and here is the customer ID. The first name is done. Next is balance. So all you need to make, this is the change, and balance presentation. Now that's it. I think this should be good. So if you execute this should display your XML content. Okay. So this is working. We have seen the live demonstration and implementation of XML parsing using DOM API in Java. Now let's take a look at the SAX API. SAX stands for Simple API for XML parsing. This is an event-based XML parsing and it parses XML files step by step. So much suitable for large type of XML files. This parses fires an event when it encountered opening tag, element or attribute, and the parsing works accordingly. It's recommended to use SAX XML parsing for parsing large XML files in Java because it does not require to load whole XML file in Java and it can read a big XML file in small parts. To understand it better, this is the best way to understand XML document, and it is going to parse using SAX API, and in this SAX API we have an XML in such a way that will simply take the steps First, it will start load the document. Then inside the document, it will start loading the element and then characters, and then it will see the end element and the end document. So this is in a steps form. So this XML has more organized and easy to handle with the large size of an XML. If you have a large amount of data in an XML in the tag form, this is the best API to use to parse it. Now let's take a look at the demonstration. To demonstration, in the same way, we have that same file, and we are going to use the SAX API in this way. This is our data table, which is in the XML form in this way, and this is our API where we are going to parse factory the same way we have the DOM. We are going to use the SAX parser factory, and inside that parse factory we are going to start a functions. First we'll have start document, and then element, and then end element, and the start element, as we have seen here. Start document, start element, then characters, end element, and the end document. Now let's take a look at the demonstration. So I'm going to consider the same XML. All I'm going to create a new Java file with name read XML SAX demo, parse SML, parse SAX demo, yeah. And I need a main method. So inside the main method, I am going to use parser factory, and factory equals AX parser factory dot new instance. So see, as you can see, as I started writing, it is automatically importing in my application in a class file. Now once we created an instance for factory object, next we need to create SAX parser object and factory dot new SAX parser. We need to import the package. As you can see, XML parser. Okay, it will ask you for. So there you can use the try and catch block. I'm just making it easy and simple right now, but for the proper application you need to mention it inside the try and catch blocks. Exception handling is always maintain the quality of your code. And inside this default handler, method boolean id, customer id attribute, a tag or element. So boolean id false, and we have first. This is just to when we pick and parse the different element, since SAX API works in steps. So we need to have the first start document, then start element. So every step is going to return you some variable that we have received. So here we have the customer first name, right? First name equals false. And we have ID, first name, and balance, right? So balance false. And first step we did the start document. Next step is we need to start the element. So we need to have the element start element method, string URI for the XML path, local name, just some argument, and query name, and attributes. This is method exceptions mentioned in API. And here in this method we are going to have the all the elements need to be compared and return the boolean value if it is true, and ignore cases in case we are not sure if it is uppercase or lowercase. So id equals to true. And similarly for all the other elements, since we are going to start the elements, so we need to compare it. First name, right? So we need to have first name and the balance. Next is balance. So here we have error in attributes. We need to import the package for this class. Okay, we did not define the object of it. Let's finish we did the start. Now next is we need to have the end. So end is going to be your empty element string URI string local, the same signature, this string q name, but it is not going to have any implementation because we have to use the condition instead of any kind of implementation for this. Now end element is done. Next we need to have the characters. First we did the start, then end, next is characters. So public void characters. These are the method we need to just override as per in API. And throws SAX exception. And here we are going to compare. If it is true, get the value and print it. Simple. Customer ID. And what is going to return here? New string, your very characters, and start and length. An ID, once it is reading, so we need to make sure it is already printed, so we need to make sure it is back to the reset. The value has to be reset. Next, your first name, if it is true, just copy paste to make it simple. And if balance, and this goes to be balance, and this is also balance. So this is your, and once this is done, the next we need to load the file. And since it is a SAX API, we have it itself have a SAX parser API method which will automatically parse. You don't have to create a separate file object and load it instead. Handler, and give the absolute path of your XML file. So This is my XML, goes to the properties, and here we have an absolute part. For the demo purpose, I'm using absolute. You can use relative as per your requirement. So, of course, there is an error because of the API package is not imported. There was a problem with the attribute package which was not included. So once we included this attribute package, this is loaded and reading from the attribute page. This is a live demonstration and implementation of XML parsing using DOM API and SAX API in Java. So we have seen the live demonstration of XML parsing and using SAX and DOM API. Important facts: DOM parses loaded whole XML document in memory, while SAX only loads a small part of the XML file in memory. DOM parsers is faster than SAX because it accesses whole XML document in memory, but SAX can load and parse the large sizes of XML. SAX parsers in Java is better suitable for large XML files than DOM parser because it does not require much memory. DOM parser works on document object model while SAX is an even-paced XML parser.